Hello and welcome to the Micon Podcast. I'm Sean Wakimaloye. The Micon Podcast is an independent show and is separate from my weekday show on China's television, which is Politics Today, and the weekend edition, which is Sunday Politics. On the show today, we'll talk politics, youth and sports development, three deeply interconnected areas: the relationship between politics, youth and sports development, and also the state of our nation is crucial, isn't it? This government policy significantly impact on youth and the average persons, and empowerment and opportunities in sports, in national life are crucial to our existence. My guest on the podcast today is none other than a man who's played these roles at the highest level. Solomon Dalong is a politician and a lawyer who served as the Minister of Youth and Sports Development from 2015 to 2019, known for his candor and distinctive khaki style, like a labor leader, and is also his heart, which is significant, like a signature of his looks. Mr. Dalong has been both a policymaker and a critic of the All Progressives Congress APC, a party who he helped to bring together in the first instance, the party under which he served as minister. What are the unseen challenges holding back the sport development in this part of the world? What are his opinions of the current administration? And of course, what inspired his iconic khaki wardrobe? Let's get started. Mr. Dalong, it's a pleasure to have you on the Micon Podcast.
Sharon, thank you for this opportunity.
I appreciate it. I mean, let's get it clear. Are you a Labour Party member now or an APC member?
I'm a member of the Social Democratic Party.
SDP.
Yeah, I left the APC in 2023. I mean, when they started perpetuating this issue of Mai Mala, a sitting governor under the constitution and also holding an executive position as the national chairman of the party. And I protested against it. I tried to get to the then president about it. That, I mean, it was wrong. And it seems to be falling on deaf ears. So I told myself that, look, you can't fight for the truth and then still be living to compromise the truth. So I resigned my membership and left.
Yeah. You were sounding at some point as though that you're like an obedient, but you are an SDP member.
Why I sounded so was just basically the ganged up against the presidential candidate of the Labour Party and making it look like he's the only problem of Nigeria. And with me, once there's a gang up against a human being, my stand will always be clear. So I stood with Peter Obi. He's a Nigerian, he's a senior citizen. His crime from all that I could gather was that he contested the 2023 election. And of course, that should not be a crime.
So you were in the SDP, but you supported Peter Obi in 2023 election.
No, I supported my candidate, Adewale Adebayo.
Okay. But
in offices in 2023, where we had no candidates, I supported the candidate of the Labour Party.
So you are multi-faced in that sense. You have the heart of APC, you have the heart of SDP, and you have the face of Labour Party. Does that describe your political character?
That has been my nature. Because during the election in Anambra, when we were in government, I told the president, when he was going to campaign there, that he was going to support APC, but my candidate was the ABGA candidate who was an incumbent. Because to me, he did very well in terms of security and infrastructure. And the whole concept of leadership is about delivering democratic dividends. So I wouldn't want to go and get that for a non-APC candidate. And in 2019, in Kaduna State, I supported the PDP governmental candidate, which I told the president too clearly that, look, for El-Rufai to introduce the issue of Muslim ticket in a multicultural society, I will not be part of it. So I'm not just a blind supporter. At any point in time, if someone decides to romance injustice, we can disagree on that, and I will stand on the side of what I feel is fair. So that's how I behave politically.
So your ideology is based on how you perceive things and how it fits into your morale, and your morality rather.
Perfect.
That's who you are. That's what Solomon Dalong is.
That is who I am. Aligning it with the basic rules on the ground.
So you're a non-conformist.
You got it right.
You are an agitator in every sense. At
Every
point
sense
in time.
of it. Every sense of it.
You agitated.
I even disagree with myself when I discovered that I didn't acted right.
What you have not disagreed with is the way you look.
No, this is very consistent.
What informed this outfit anyway? The khaki and your beret. I mean, it reminds me when I was in university. If you wear this on campus, you might have, and you don't belong to a particular court group, you might have your head in your hands at some point. Are you a courtist?
Not at all. This is the signature of my mentor, Che Guevara, the Latin American revolutionary who actually fought very well for the liberation of most of those countries. It was also replicated here in Africa by my great mentor and leader, Thomas Sankara, of blessed memory in Burkina Faso. So it is an ideology of preaching, change in favor of the majority. So we stand for the general good. So I'm only just replicating that, and that are my thoughts.
So you are a Che Guevara in one sense, you're a Sankara on one hand, but in the real sense, let's come to the real fact. You served on the platform of the APC. You were in the beginning one of the so-called founders of the APC, and there are those who will blame you that you are one of the problems of Nigeria. There are those who will say, Solomon Dalong, what you preach is different from what we saw. You serve the political party that you now disagree with. What came about the APC? What was the agenda in forming the APC in the first place?
The APC, as at the time of conception, the way some of us perceive it was like we were all agreeing on one thing, to move Nigeria forward. But shortly after that, I realized that APC was just like the Pontius Pilate Pontifical disagreements. We were a conglomeration of strange bedfellows with all different interests, but we had a common enemy. And the common enemy was to eliminate PDP and Jonathan.
And Goodluck Jonathan.
And for me, it wasn't so. For me, it was the issue of let us move the country forward. So shortly after we have gotten power, this interest started manifesting itself in different forms and even within government which we were serving. And of course, I understood that, look, we had actually shortchanged Nigerians.
So in one sense, APC deceived Nigerians. They were not actually for the people. They were actually to grab power. Is that what you're saying?
No, APC used Nigerians and the common people. Because, the Buhari hurricane in 2015 was sponsored by Nigerians. Every kobo spent, apart from the big politicians who were donating aircrafts, which was also used by themselves for the campaign. And the common people, you remember, were trekking. Some trek 40 kilometers to attend our rallies. The poor people scratched cards, liquidated their small investment and donated. And the peak of it was the 90-year-old woman in Kebbi, whom when we went for campaign, brought out her life savings of 1 million and donated it to APC and said, she thanked God that she's contributing to the new Nigeria, even if she may not live to see.
All that has been a ruse, isn't it?
Completely.
So so are you disappointed? Because I'm also worried that you served under the APC, you benefited from the APC, you served for 4 years as a minister. Now you are coming back to stab the party in the back, and you say the party does not represent what you thought you could have represented. Is that not double speaking?
I serve my country because at any given opportunity, if I'm invited, I'm convinced that I have something to offer for my country, I will go and serve. I serve my country. But the party with which I was one of the strongest members at conception and even the campaign. I mean, I brought much to the table in 2015. I mobilized 560 clergies, bishops, reverend fathers to endorse Buhari on the 13th of February 2015 at the International Conference Center. And that was the first time, in the history of this country, where the North, which has always been divided along religion, had that type of endorsement. And the clergy went and campaigned for Buhari. So I am a tall stakeholder in APC. But like you said, I am completely disappointed because, what we told Nigerians was not what had happened in 2015.
So it was a lie.
We lied. We should admit we lied.
To Nigerians?
To Nigerians.
You deceived Nigerians.
We deceived, even though we use deceive people, the PDP, for campaign, but of course we were a replica of what we were accusing the PDP of.
Or even worse.
Worse. Not even. Eliminate the word worse.
But Buhari was a catch, isn't it? People wanted the exit of PDP, thinking that Buhari was the messiah at the time. But now there are those who will say Buhari was a disaster. Those who do not see that Buhari did anything good in that 8 years, we think that Buhari wasn't the best for Nigeria at the time. What happened?
Buhari was also used and done.
Who used him?
Buhari's charisma was needed at that point in time by the political elite to eliminate Jonathan. And shortly after Buhari had taken over power, these sets of political elites emerged and hijacked government. And Buhari was a stranger. I can say this at any point in time. Buhari was a stranger in his own government. And I can corroborate this because I went to see the president in 2020 when I was out of office. And I told him, Mr. President, this wasn't what we told Nigerians. And that I have conscience. We campaigned and convinced Nigerians. When I look at the type of investment the common people put in our government, and here we are today with insecurity. When we came in, it was only the Northeast. As at 2020, I told him, it was not possible to even travel from Abuja to Kaduna. And I dared him. I said, Mr. President, if you disbelieve what I'm saying, or what I was saying, please roll out Brigade of Gas now, and I join you. We drive from Abuja to Daura. And I promise him that if bandits do not attack him, I will go and die in exile. I briefed him about the security situation, about the hardship. And to be very fair to the president, he expressed surprise, meaning from my own judgment, some of the things I said were things he was hearing them for the first time. But I'm not surprised that such has happened. Because even when we were in government, it has happened. It was me who, even at the Federal Executive Council meeting, that informed him when a DSS and EFCC were trigger drawn in Asokoro here for 3 days. They held the entire environment hostage, and the president didn't know. It was everywhere on the press, print media.
But the president, the Buhari that we saw is usually with newspapers. We saw him reading the newspapers. Maybe they gave him a different newspaper.
Well, those who had such knowledge had actually claimed that his newspapers are different. But from this particular incident where the president was in Nigeria for 3 good days, and we went to the Federal Executive Council meeting, and I was expecting the issue to have been on the agenda, the first thing we will look at. And until we finished our meeting, it was not there. I had to introduce it through AOB. And the president was completely in confusion, listening to what I was saying. And at the end of the day, we even left without any closing prayer because he was visibly angry. And when he left, On my way to my office, I saw those two agencies under his office, directly under his office, holding a complete community hostage for 3 days because of whatever their interests they had, and the president didn't know. There was no security to his table. The national security advisor could not inform him. The so-called courtiers and veranda boys, none of them, thought it wise to save his image and integrity to inform him.
So there was an overtaking of the Buhari government under his watch. For
me, Buhari's integrity was needed. It was a political bite needed to eliminate Jonathan and his government. And immediately that was achieved. You could see what happened. If we were honest, after bringing Buhari, there should have been a consensus, and we should have looked at our individual images and integrity as to how we will move the country forward. But the type of war that went on within and outside, the blame game and everything, it's enough to tell.
So it was within the corridors of power, within the presidency, those who overtook the so-called cabals really existed.
No, cabal exists in Nigerian presidency till today.
Really? It's still under Tinubu government?
No. Tinubu has even the most sophisticated cabal.
Really?
Worse than Buhari. Buhari's cabal was a group of uninformed people with little experiences. That was why they were dipping hand in everything that was available. But Tinubu's cabal is a sophisticated group of people who had been long in power. And they know power. They are also informed. So they are more dangerous than any other cabal that I have ever known and seen.
So there is cabal in Tinubu's government, and we need to fear them more because according to you, they are more dangerous.
They are more dangerous because they are more sophisticated.
Who are these cabals?
Well, they are the gatekeepers of the president. They are found very close within the circumference of power.
And usually they don't allow governance to flow. Is that what happens?
Yeah. They shield the the president from the obvious reality, and they don't allow information to assess the president. And I still corroborate this with what happened during Buhari. There was a time somebody went to see the president to brief him about the situation in the country. And one of the courtiers asked him, what will you be telling the president? He narrated it and he told him, look, my friend, we can't allow you to tell president that thing. What if he collapsed? And so the man was prevented from telling the president. So you can have, a cabal is a group of ambitious people who were also appointed by the same president to help him govern, but they will run his presidency at their own expense and interest. So it happened. We have cabal now.
If you look at what is going on right now, one will imagine that Buhari government has gone. Now the Tinubu government. And you will wonder that is it the same APC that you left that is in existence right now, or is it a different APC?
It's the same APC that we formed, but also more sophisticated than the APC I serve. Because you have so many new born again who had from all other political interests. They have now metamorphosed into the party, and it's a very complex political architecture, which is more like a zoo.
So when you were there, you are of the CPC stock,
of course.
So the CPC cabal were running the Buhari government, but now it looks like the ACN cabal are the one running the Tinubu government. Is that what is going on?
No, the CPC did not succeed in having a cabal. If it did, the likes of Al-Makura, who was the only CPC governor into
the merger,
could have featured prominently. The most unfortunate thing that happened was that shortly after we have taken power, this group of people emerged from nowhere. Let me tell you, when I was
There
campaigning,
were not politicians at these big cabals are not politicians.
they were like bandits who laid an ambush. Immediately when the president was declared winner, I was with him in his office. I went to see him in the evening. That very day, I was blocked from going into his house. That very day. And this was the same place as at last night of the previous day. I was there till 2 a.m. I was blocked until I had to make calls before I was allowed to go in. Till I was able to make calls to assess Buhari before I was allowed.
So from that day, the cabal had taken over.
Taken over. Those who campaigned for Buhari went celebrating. So they left the president porous. And these people who knew power took over power. And they actually run it to their interest until 8 years.
And these people have amassed a lot of wealth from what you are trying to describe.
Of course, they are very, very wealthy.
And
Nigerians should expect them.
And they are very powerful.
Of course.
And you are not afraid that these powerful people may come after you.
Oh, you see, I've been into this for all my years. I've been into the struggle for 40 years. I've survived more than 10 assassination attempts. There was a time 5 people carrying AK-47 blocked me and sprayed my car. Solomon Dalong is still living. In 2014, on my way from Zaria to Jos, 3 people around 11 a.m. ambushed me again, sprayed my car. I'm still alive. I'm not talking about attempt to poison my food on so many occasions. I'm not talking about even the invasion of my house in Jos so many times in an attempt to kidnap me and go and kill. So I am not afraid of death because one thing I know, my mother confirmed that to me, I'm not going to leave this planet until the day ordained by God. So I'm not afraid of anybody planning to kill me.
So are you like a cat with 9 lives or you have some supernatural powers?
Well, I think I have more than 9 lives because the number of assassination attempts I've survived is more than 9.
So it's a supernatural powers?
No, I think God is on my side.
Oh, really? Or your mom birthed you in some very...
Well, I wouldn't know, but I know that the just shall live by faith.
So you're a good Christian, isn't it?
I am. No, I'm not a Christian. I am a believer. I'm not a Christian.
Are you a Muslim?
I'm a believer in Jesus Christ, who died and rose on the 3rd day.
So, I mean, those who are Christians are those who say they live their lives like Christ.
It's not for them.
Christ-like.
It's not for them to say. Because if you go to the book of Acts, it was others who saw their lifestyle. So if a Muslim said, oh, this is a Christian, I have no problem with that. But a believer should not refer to me as a Christian.
So what religion do you observe?
Yeah, I practice the religion of the man of Calvary.
And which is?
Well, that is, I'm a believer of Jesus Christ of Nazareth.
So you are not a Christian?
No.
And neither are you a Muslim?
No. If a Muslim refers to me as a Christian, he's right. Because that's what the Bible says. I believe in the Holy Bible.
But what are you? What religion do you?
I believe in Jesus Christ, the man of Calvary, who died and rose on the 3rd day.
That is believed to be Christianity.
You see, no, we are followers of Jesus Christ. You see, this concept of Christianity which we are promoting, biblically is wrong. The Bible says, when they gathered in Antioch and they were behaving like Christ, those who saw them said, oh, who are these? And somebody said, oh, you don't know them? These are the believers of the man of Calvary who was crucified. So he said, oh, they are Christ-like. So if somebody sees Sion's life looking like that of Jesus Christ and is not a believer, he's free to say this is a Christian, Christ-like. But you cannot describe yourself that you are Christ-like.
So how do you describe yourself religion-wise?
I describe myself as a follower of Jesus Christ and I believe in him.
Let me take you back quickly. You supporting Peter Obi, does it make you feel that maybe that's the best man that can run this country? Was that what you believed?
Well, I have never supported Peter Obi. I only defended Peter Obi when the rise against him, the campaign to try to blackmail him and possibly force him to exile himself by attack dogs of the president. Because, they left issues which were affecting the country and they concentrated on him. But in Peter Obi, I see that leadership qualities, because for him to be able to mobilize the votes he got within a short time, I believe that Nigerians saw something in him good, and I cannot think differently.
Out of all the candidates, who do you think? The president is in office, and so it's you can't change that. But from your own assessment, who do you think would have done a better job on running this country?
Prince Adewale Adebayo.
You think he's the best candidate?
He has the very best knowledge of this, and he knows the country very well.
But he didn't get it. He didn't even move close.
You cannot even put him with anybody.
Really?
He has that courage. He has the knowledge. He has the capacity. But he's a greenhorn in politics. So that may be
a problem.
Yeah.
What do you think of an Atiku-Peter Obi merger? Do you think that could pose a big threat in 2027?
I will advise Atiku to mentor Peter Obi if they're going to go into any alliance. But for Atiku to put himself in the ring again in 2027, that will mean campaigning for Tinubu.
Really?
Yeah.
If Atiku run in 2027, is it going to be an easy run for...
Tinubu will just leave for France and stay there. He will not come back until during the inauguration.
It's going to be an easy pass for Tinubu.
Look, it's a walkover.
But there are those who will say the Northerners should allow the South to run till 2030, in 2027, and the SGF have made that statement. What's your view?
I'm an advocate of equity. By 2027, the president of Nigeria should come from the South. Northerners, like me, if we actually want to make very good impact in 2027, is to identify a candidate in the South, support him against the incumbent. But if we make the mistake of presenting a candidate from the North, the game is over.
But what is going on now? There seems to be some kind of people coming together in the northern region of the country against the political institution that is in place right now. Why is the pain rising in the North?
Northerners felt betrayed. They brought about 5-point-something million votes to coronate this government under the Muslim ticket hypocrisy or deceit. So, but they are not getting it at all. You see, the Northerners are complaining about the economic policies of the government. The government is giving deaf ears to that. Insecurity in the North is rising every day. People are kidnapped every day. Villages are being sacked by one terrorist group or the other. So what the North expected was, for the president to have concentrated in dealing with this issue, especially insecurity. Because Northerners are not lazy people. If insecurity is dealt with, I'm telling you, nobody's going to talk about government. They will just keep quiet and organize themselves and then spring a surprise in 2027. But the president has forced the North to be vocal with some of his policies.
And you don't think this is also maybe some of the appointment the president has made, because there are those who are saying that is impacting on their view of the nation's unity, and that may affect his chances in 2027. Do you think?
You see, it's only the political elites that are talking about appointments. But an average Northerner is not concerned about it. An average Northerner is concerned about poverty, insecurity.
But that has been there in the 8 years of Buhari. They face more poverty.
Yeah.
They out of school children.
High cost of living. You see, it has been compounded with the withdrawal of fuel subsidy. Buhari, with all his 8 years of non-performance. Buhari was very, very shrewd politically because he never allowed himself to be boxed to the corner to subscribe to the issue of withdrawing subsidy because he knew what it is to Nigerians.
Do you regret supporting Buhari with the benefit of hindsight, with what has happened?
No, I no.
You don't regret?
No.
And those who say the Buhari government was a disaster, what do you say?
I still believe that it was a disaster.
Buhari government was a disaster?
I believe that it is a disaster.
It failed Nigerians?
Yeah, it failed. Buhari failed Nigerians.
You are part of that failure, aren't you?
I accept wholeheartedly.
Do you regret being a part of the failure?
No, well, of course. Of course.
But
we would have given this country something better.
Unfortunately,
we couldn't.
But if you look at it, someone like former Governor Nasir El-Rufai, a key Tinubu supporter, couldn't get a ministerial role by the Senate. Yaya Bello, a strong supporter, is being tried by the EFCC. Do you view these actions as genuine accountability or political witch hunt within the APC?
For Yaya Bello, there's nothing there resembling which is genuine demand for accountability. But you see, it's more or less like armed robbers after robbing a bank, and they went to share the loot in the forest, and one of them stole something, and the rest are putting him on trial. So he's complaining, we're all robbers, so why will you try me for robbery, for stealing? That's what is happening with Yaya Bello. But for El-Rufai, I expected him to have been smarter politically than what happened to him. When he concluded his tenure, towards the end of his tenure, he made up his mind not to hold any public office. But Tinubu went to Kaduna at an economic summit and lured him. And El-Rufai knew that he is smarter than almost every other person. He knew himself well. He knew even his intrigues. He knew his controversial disposition. So he couldn't have given into that because he was lured into so that he can be humiliated the way he did. And if I were in his shoes, even if today even Angel Gabriel is accompanying Tinubu to pacify me to serve in his government, I will not. You know why? If I dare make that mistake, they will nominate me, and then when they go to the National Assembly, they will raise security reports and declare me a terrorist. And that will be over. So El-Rufai made the greatest respect for the mistake which intelligent people shouldn't have done. He should have remained with his decision. And today, he could have had more strength to be able to fight this government.
Well, we understand that he's playing some roles and there's some alignment and alliance with the SDP. Are you aware?
Yeah. But he's somebody they should watch out for because he has the capacity to mobilize people. And having learned his lesson, he will rather, if Atiku is not careful, El-Rufai will emerge as a political godfather for the North in 2027. Because he's not going to talk for himself, but he will galvanize that support to make sure that, he gets his pound of flesh from this government.
So is it true that there is a storm brewing? There is a coming together of some heavyweight politicians trying to form an alliance and form a very strong opposition?
There are different concentrics of mobilization against this government. The poor people themselves are one, mobilizing. The youth who are now thinking of, generational shift, not even geopolitical shift, power shift. They are also mobilizing. The politicians who, with their own interests, they're not even different. Most of Nigerian political elites are not different from these people. Because if you see what happened during Konkoso's daughter's wedding in Kano, you will know that they are deceiving people. Because all of them congregated there. There was nothing like Christian Muslim. Even there were Islamic clerics dining and wining together. That's the political elite. So they are now trying to come up with something again, like what happened in 2015, to now eliminate this government, and we may even run the risks. So I am of the candid opinion that the young people in this country, should learn from what has happened in Senegal, what has happened in Ghana, in other countries, and let them talk to themselves.
Do you think Tinubu might be in trouble politically in 2027?
He's already in trouble.
Really?
Yeah, Tinubu is already in trouble.
How do you mean?
Tinubu's trouble is on now because if you conduct a political survey genuinely, you will discover that Tinubu's rating will be embarrassing.
Really?
Yeah.
But there are those who believe that these are tough decisions that needs to be made. They are bold decisions, audacious decisions that the government of Tinubu is making. But in all of this, there are those who say, if we don't make these tough decisions, our country will not move forward. Do you agree?
No, I disagree completely. They are not even genuine economic decisions.
Seriously?
Yeah, because there is no economic policy that has no alternative. Once you say there is no alternative, then that describes the level of mental bankruptness of your line of thought. In economics, there must always be an alternative. You see, when Olufalaye said, well, SAB was the only alternative, did it turn out to be an alternative? So these decisions that was taken by the president, they were not bold decisions at all. They were decisions of a coward who just wanted to shield himself by throwing out, unleashing trauma on the people for him to turn around and say bold decision. What is bold in it? If he was that courageous, he was expected to have prosecuted the 16 companies, oil companies, inducted by the National Assembly, where two of them, Eagle Oil and Rano, came out and said, we have not collected a dime from subsidy. The 14 did not say anything. A courageous Nigerian leader, after inauguration, should start from there, not withdrawal of full subsidy.
But the Arewa Youth Consultative Forum, for example, has accused you of making baseless remarks against the Tinubu's administration to incite protests, citing your failed 2023 House of Representatives bid and attempts to regain ministerial role. How do you respond to these claims? Are your criticism driven by genuine national interest or your personal ambition or pain of your failed political bid?
No, you see, in politics and in democracy, people are entitled to their opinions. And so I don't contest or condescend to the level of joining issues for them. They were only trying to demobilize the mobilization we had embarked upon to protest. They did everything possible, bringing out a lot of money, calling people names and calling them out, but we proved a point. We succeeded in giving Nigerians the best organized demonstration, despite everything they did, arresting all our cadre men and locking them up, intimidating. We still had Nigerians more than any other demonstration ever conducted in this country. So I think for us, we succeeded.
So you were behind the August protest?
Of course. Of course. I was one of the organizers.
You are an anti-Buhari, anti-Tinubu person?
Of course, I am.
Why?
Because of his economic policies.
Do you dislike him that much?
Not as a person. Not as a person. But his policies and his approach to governance, I, of course, hate it completely.
Let me ask you, there are those who will look at things as it's going right now and look at your time in office. During your time as Minister of Youth and Sport, many Nigerians felt the government did not adequately address systemic problems in the Nigerian sports sector, including infrastructure and athletes' welfare. Given your close involvement, how do you respond to critics who argue that your tenure was largely ineffective and a failure?
Well, they're also subject to their opinion. I don't blame them for that. But of course, the records are there. I was the only minister who secured World Cup ticket for Nigeria without the jumbo presidential task force that almost got 10 billion every time Nigeria is going to World Cup, single-handedly. That's an achievement. Under my watch, when I left office, I left Nigeria as champions in 10 sports. Today, I doubt if they are anywhere in 2 or 3. Under my watch, still, the Tigres in Tenerife, Spain, emerged the first African team to be in basketball to ever qualify to quarterfinals in 100 years. And they moved their ranking from 34 to number 8 in the world. I can go on and on. Under my watch, I revived the moribund National Sports Festival. Under my watch, there was the National Youth Games, which I run. And the product of the National Youth Games is the profile of the contemporary athletes Nigeria is using.
The National Sports Program, your tenure has faced a lot of scrutiny over the handling of funds for the organization, particularly in the aftermath of Nigeria's underwhelming performance in major events like the Rio Olympics. What is your take on these claims? How would you address the accountability gaps that exist in the management of public funds allocated to sport? There are those who believe that in the sports sector, they believe at that time in your office that a lot of monies were not able to be accounted for, that you took away with you a lot of public funds. How do you account for that?
Oh my God. Accountability under my watch is open for public scrutiny till death. Let me tell you something about this Rio. I borrowed 50 million naira from late Senator Ifeanyi Uba to come and train Team Nigeria to take them to Rio. The first release from government came 4 days into Olympics. I went to Olympics. I bought my ticket myself and I went to Olympics. And the budget for Olympics in 2016 is public document by the National Assembly was 400 million, which was even insufficient to buy ticket. I had to approach the president with a memo to approve another 1.4 billion for us. And I went to Rio in the history of Nigeria Olympics with one of the modest contingent, because we didn't go with all these jumbo size jamboree of carrying people. It was only athletes and officials.
So those who think that you stole money while being Minister of Sport, you don't think that you need anything to defend?
Oh, no, I have nothing. I don't even have money.
They don't see.
In fact, there was a publication in Vanguard accusing me of stealing 18 billion. And the entire money released to sports in the 3 years I served was not even up to that. So these are figures that sometimes people fabricate. But I believe that if I have stolen money, if anybody is aware, he could still make a complaint. He should be investigated.
You've been highly critical of your successors, especially Minister John Owaneno, calling his tenure a failure and accusing him of mismanagement. However, critics, including Jonathan Abanguba, argue that your tenure was marred by several issues, from the mishandling of Team Nigeria's performance in the Olympics to neglecting sports infrastructure and athletes' welfare. With this in mind, how do you respond to the accusation that your attacks on the minister at the time, the former Minister of Sport, Owaneno, are more about deflecting attention from your own legacy, which many see as flawed?
You see, I still, there's people are free to express their opinion. But records are there. Athletes and players' welfare enjoyed the greatest attention under me. It was under my watch that I introduced the reward system for athletes who maybe win a gold medal at international distance to $5,000, and those who win silver, $3,000, and those who win bronze, $2,000. So athletes and players' welfare under my watch received the best attention. In fact, if that wasn't the case, Nigeria would have not even qualified for football in Rio during the Olympics in 2016, because when I came in, there was an issue of the backlog of non-payment.
You're describing yourself as though you are the best Minister of Sport Nigeria has ever had.
I am not. It's Nigerians that I'm only giving account, because allegations now are arrest. So in responding to allegations, it may look like self-praising, but for me, I didn't do enough.
Do you have regrets serving as Minister of Sports?
No, not at all.
Do you think that if you had given opportunity again, what would you do differently?
If I'm given the opportunity, I will improve on what I did, because there are some things that needed to be addressed. You see, the sports architecture needed radical transformation. The private sector needed to be wooed to put in investment in sports. And government needs to move from the mentality of seeing sports as recreation. Because government investment in sports has been abysmal.
So do you agree with the initiative by the president to scrap the Ministry of Sport and create a sports commission?
Now, that's the worst decision that any government has ever made.
Really?
Yeah. Ministry of Sports belongs to the youth demography, and they are responsible for bringing any government. It's only sports that can produce a millionaire within a short span of time. During the National Sports Festival, let me tell you, there were young people who came and became millionaires because their state fixed the price of 1 million per gold medal. There was a young lady who came to me and said, "Sir, I am now a proud millionaire because I won 5 gold medals and my state has won 1 million. So I am a millionaire." And I asked her, "What will you do with the money?" She said, "Oh, I'm going to use it to build a house for my father." That is how sports can create wealth. So a mega and a critical ministry like sports will be scrapped. So who sits in council now to speak for the majority of young people who are beneficiaries of this ministry?
So you think it was a wrong decision by this government?
Oh, if there was anything Tinubu has done that to me was worse than withdrawal of fuel subsidy, he should scrap the Ministry of Sports.
If you look at, as a lawyer, let me ask you, what is your view on the Dele Farotimi case on the issue of defamation, libel against Are Afe Babalola?
I would have thought that my father, Afe Babalola, should have not taken this route. Because, I mean, he has exposed his legacies to public attack. And I don't see him surviving it. Because Dele is a reputable human rights activist. I mean, his profile is highly revered by most Nigerians. So they will never understand him with all his claim for defamation, for this, for that. If I were to advise him, he would have just called Dele and said, "Look, my son, I mean, this is not the way to go. You will also get to where I am today. Despite what you would have known about me, I mean, this wasn't the better way to handle it. That was how I was mentored by Chief Lar." But you see, he had condescended into the arena. And it is him now and his family versus Nigerians. And I don't see him ending up as a victor.
A Nigerian will feel defamed and will feel wrongfully attacked in writing or by a manner of speaking. How do you, as a lawyer, how do you think that could be best handled, legally speaking?
You have the right to go to court. You have the right to seek redress in court. You have the right to report like he did. But let me tell you something that happened. When I was in office, Vanguard accused me of stealing 18 billion. And people said, "Oh, I should take Vanguard to court." But I told myself that if I have not accepted to be a minister, this wouldn't have happened. And having accepted this responsibility, there's a better way of dealing with it. And I went the other way to reach out to them and say, "Hey, man, you didn't get it right. And I think you owe me an apology so that this issue is laid to rest." And we settled it. The issue died within a short span of time. But this very issue will live and linger for a very long time.
You recently shared a troubling experience on social media where you were denied, according to you, medical treatment due to the non-payment of an admission deposit, despite already having your medical records at the hospital. Given your public position and experience, what does this incident say about the state of healthcare in Nigeria, especially for ordinary citizens? How can the healthcare system be reformed to ensure that patients' lives are prioritized over administrative processes like deposit payments?
You see, the experience was so traumatic to me as a person. And this was because after 4 hours, when I regained my consciousness and realized that I have been abandoned simply because I was unconscious and could not be able to transfer money to the hospital. And when I did that, and I went into, again, I became unconscious again for the 7 hours. When ultimately I recovered, I became terrified. Terrified because I said, oh, so many people would have died this way. What happened if I did not recover after 4 hours? It would have been, he has died of brief illness. You see, we need to have moved far, far from where we are now with our medical delivery services and infrastructure. I thought that after COVID, we were going to learn big lessons and transform the healthcare sector. But it has now gone down even low below what it was before COVID. So I think if our leaders think or thought that COVID has gone, I'm sure something is still going to come if nothing is done about the healthcare system. Today, if you go to the hospital, you go to the villages, the common people have abandoned modern healthcare system. They are back to traditionalism because they can't afford it. They can't afford.
On a final note, just like we wrap up, just to wrap up, give me your honest view on the way forward for Nigeria.
The way forward for Nigeria is for the president to be a father figure. He has very good experiences as somebody who struggled for democracy. And he has also been a governor and a senator. So my expectation of him is that he would have understood the Nigerian political landscape and also knew that the country is sharply divided and should have taken steps to unite the country. I have suggested the issue which the government has announced, nothing is happening, holding a national youth summit, trying to bring the young people together to guarantee them of a future. That's very, very important. Secondly, the president needs more engagement of stakeholders across the country. Because it's not about winning election in 2027. But if in case he wins in 2027, he will face a situation worse than what Buhari faced, because he's going to face a very terrible opposition. And the country may be navigating on a very serious storm. So the president needs to act now. He should grow above these primordial sentiments and look at the country, because we are here today, showing tomorrow we will not be here to sit and discuss this country.
You said that his presidency might be troubled, politically speaking. Can he salvage it? Is it too late?
No, it's not. It's not too late. It's not too late. I mean, there are better ways of dealing with this. Let me give you an example of what Shagari did, and even if you go back to what Tafawa Balewa did. You see, when Tafawa Balewa's government was faced by the storm of the crisis in Western region, there was realignment. He got some people from the Western region into his government in order to stabilize the country. Even though while he did that, he still went and lit matches, the fuel station, and then it exploded and consumed the government. The president should not ignore what is happening now and be thinking about himself. It's very, very important that he try to bring the country together. Even in terms of appointment. You see, each time I hear him making an appointment, they don't seem to tally with what Section 14.3 of the Constitution provides. It doesn't reflect the country. And I'm disappointed, because my understanding of President Tinubu is that he knew this country, but I realized that he seems not to. But there are elderly people around him. All those shouting around him should know that once fire is set at the filling station, anybody within the vicinity of the filling station should say his last prayers.
Mr. Solomon Dalong, thank you so much. Former Minister of Sports and Youth Development in Nigeria. So you are not a cultist, but you are an activist.
I am not a cultist. I've not even participated in one, but I am a revolutionary politician.
Thank you so much indeed. Well, that's our podcast today, everyone. Many thanks for watching. It's been an exciting conversation with Mr. Solomon Dalong. Of course, you know what to do. Subscribe, follow, and share. That way, many more people will be able to glean from the perception or perspectives that he has shared with us, and so many other episodes of this podcast on our YouTube and other social media platforms. Thank you so much, everyone. I'm Sean Akimada. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining us on this edition of Mike On Podcast with Shayon Okimbaloi. Mike On Podcast for the independent mind.